said before we went on a break, we're still, remembering the legacy of the former First Lady, Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings, who unfortunately passed last week. But today's conversation with the celebrated sports journalist Fentuo Tahiru delves into the life, legacy, and the lasting impact of Ghana's former First Lady, whose recent passing has sparked a national reflection. Now, while many remember her as a political figure and the wife of the former president, Fentuo's story offers a more intimate lens. Now, one that reveals how her compassion, vision, and programs transformed the lives of ordinary Ghanaians, especially the youth. And so we're just going to be getting into that. For me, I think the first time I saw it was on a friend shared it on Instagram, and I was like, this is quite lengthy, but for some reason I just stayed to read the entire thing, and I'm like, okay. This is actually very interesting, but it's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yes,
good to see you.
Good to see you too. But first things first, where were you when you heard of the passing of the former First Lady?
I think I was in the office, and by virtue of the work we do, we always get the news first. Yeah. So even before you start to see it on social media, it's on the WhatsApp platform, the news WhatsApp platform, and everybody's trying to verify. And it was quite chaotic because, there were some personal plans that I had made with her, because I think in November of last year, I put up a post to pay tribute to her for the role that she played in getting me into school. And then after the post went out, it was published on my journal online, and it went viral. She reached out. She wanted to meet, and I was, naturally very elated to finally have the opportunity to meet her again, the first time since 1991. But then schedules never quite worked out, and I never got to meet her until I found out that she had passed. So it did hit me differently because I was waiting to finally have the chance to personally even say thank you and take some photos, and because to be fair, I grew up in the era of Konadu Rawlings as First Lady, and she was the peak of womanhood, of feminism, activism. So, she represented so much more than just a First Lady to someone like me. So you can imagine that her death would have come and would have hit stronger than normal.
Yeah, talking about the post that you made, I'm very much interested in what even pushed you to make that post, because it's a story that you've had for quite some time. But that morning, you decided to wake up and just go on Twitter and write that lengthy one. Yeah. What was that thing that pushed you to write that tribute?
That's a good question. It was around the time there was a massive debate about free SHS. And there were quite a lot of people, because this was in the lead up to the election, and there were I think, if I remember correctly, there was a debate about whether or not if a new government came into office, they would scrap it. And we're all very critical of the government in that election year, because a lot of people thought some things went right, but it cannot. Criticism can be done in a vacuum. It has to be specific. Like, you have to have. It can't just be a general criticism. So there has to be a specific reason why you're upset. So if someone is upset because of something, that's okay. There were others that were quite furious about the way free SHS was deployed. And I thought, okay, free SHS had its problems, but I am a massive advocate of free SHS because I'm from the school of thought where I believe that when it comes to education, it has to be access first. So provide the facility, let the people go to school, let them have the chance to go to school, and then everything else can be adapted and can be worked through as it progresses. So I said, you know what, I don't understand, or I don't agree with anybody that says, let's pause this and then re-examine what happened. I would say, let's keep it going, let's start it. If it allows, a child in Bonkrugu or who cannot pay school fees to go to school, and even if there is no classroom for them or there's no furniture for them, you let them go to the school first. and then we can work through the other things. So it then reminded me of my own situation, because when that school was built, there was nothing. But it gave me access to enter the classroom. And I went through it, and then eventually look at where I found myself. So let's say at the time, we thought, okay, there are no chairs in the classroom. Why should we build a classroom if there are no chairs to put in there? And we say, okay, let's wait till we get the chairs first before we build the classroom. I would never have had an education. So that's what pushed me. Because at the end of that post, you remember that I said that any program that is aimed at expanding access is always a laudable idea. Then we can build into it all the other factors that make education whole. But at the very beginning, at the very foundation of it, at the very basic level of it, is access. Give people access. Let them enter the classroom, and then we can work to improve all the other things. Because that's how I ended up in that particular classroom. Access. Otherwise, I would not be here.
For the many people who have not read your post, or may have not watched or listened to your story, let's get into why the former First Ladies, or how the former First Ladies' impact, legacy, has affected you or has impacted your life as a boy from Vamboy. Born to a farmer parent. How has she impacted your life?
It's a very long story, and it's even more important now, I guess, that she's passed, that for people to know that, she may not be perfect, but she's had impact in places where, because I know that the First Women's Movement wasn't always very popular with everyone. There were criticisms here and there. Personally, it's the single best thing that could have happened to my life. So where I was born in Vamboy, it's a very small village, maybe about 20, 25 kilometers from the district capital, Tumu, and which is where many people know me to be from. Call me Tumu something, because honestly, there was a point in my life where I got tired of having to spell my village's name, because I say Vamboy, then somebody said Bamboy. I was like, because Bamboy was more popular. I'm like, no, with a V, and so I just ended up saying I'm from Tumu. That ends the story anyway. So, but I'm actually from Vamboy, where my village didn't have a school at the time that I was born. Even when I was of school-going age, there was no school for me. Not primary school, not elementary, or no KG, no nursery, nothing in the village. If you had to go to school, you needed to go to the next village to attend school. The next village had a school. And a lot of kids from my village attended school in that next village. That next village is called Bugbele, right? But, so that served as a discouraging factor for many parents, because why send my kid to a school in another village when they could easily help me out in the farm? So it was a disincentive for them to send kids to school. So a lot of the kids that were born usually ended up helping out in the farm, because the school is not there. So it gives them an excuse to not take you to school anyway. Right. So, but around the time that I was born, up to like age 4, there was a man called Tiso, who had a bit of education, I think maybe up to secondary school level, but I think he was involved with the First Women's Movement for a bit. So he somehow advocated and got the movement to establish a day nursery in my village. So when they built the day nursery, it was 2 classrooms and a canteen. They went around the whole village to ask every parent to donate a child to the school. Because the point was, we've managed to bring this school here, and we can't leave you to then decide whether you want to send your kid to school or not. So everybody, if you have a kid of a certain school going, like 4 or 5, please bring your boy or your girl. And fortunately, I happened to be of that age at that time. And I was my father's firstborn. And I had now started to, fetch him water here and there. So I would have been really good helping hand in the farm. So he reluctantly donated me to the school. You understand? So with the idea that, because they wanted to do something so that the First Lady would come and open the school. Because once she comes to open the school, there have to be some kids, right? Show them something. So the idea was, after she comes and she goes, take me back and put me back in the farm. But I will not remember how long it lasted, but there was only one madam that was there, and we started to have recitals. They started to teach us nursery rhymes and what have you. And two of us were chosen, me and my cousin, and they taught me how to recite a lion. And they taught my cousin how to do CCC, right? All in preparation for the first lady coming. And the day finally arrived, and you know, the first lady came with an entourage, lots of cars. The first time I'd seen so many vehicles in my life, you know, and the whole school gathered. And this was the first December Women's Movement School in all the cluster of villages. So everybody was there, and the first lady had come. So everybody has come, right? So they came, we gathered around, lots of people, and then they opened the school, and then the children had to demonstrate something. So they pulled us out, me and my cousin, who was female, called Nora too, and I did my thing, you know. A lion has a tail. I did the whole demonstration thing, you know, and it went well. It was spectacular. After the event, the first lady took us and put us in her vehicle, and I went around the other villages, because this was also 1991. They were trying to compete. You know, the election was in 92, so there was also some bit of campaign there, and went around all the other villages, and then brought us back to our village, and then left us there. So after that, I spent the next, I don't know, me and my father, like maybe 1 month, looking for the news article to air on GTV. The people from GTV, if you are watching, read that news article.
Our neighbors.
Because they told us that it would air in the evening news, right? So once they left, every evening, we would, only one man had a TV, and it was a battery-powered television, black and white, right? Every evening we'll go there, go and sit down, watch the news. Every evening, I guess that's probably where my love for news came about, right? Every evening we would go and watch the news, looking for the news item. But like, I don't know, weeks must have gone by, we didn't see it. The day we didn't go was the day somebody came running towards our house to tell us that they were airing the news item. And by the time we ran back there, it was gone. So till date, I haven't seen that news item, and I haven't seen what has become of it. But bottom line is, after all of that, people encouraged my father to keep me in the school, because they thought, okay, this kid has something special, like, his mouth is sharp, so you keep him there, it could become something. So, but it's day nursery, so it was always going to finish. So once I finished that day nursery and was ready to go to primary school, I now had to go to the next school, the next village for primary school, JSS, and that's a story for another time, because Mrs. Rawlings had nothing to do with that one. But there were no chairs, and up until even JSS, right, we have to pack blocks, right? Maybe you pack 3 blocks, maybe 2 blocks, and that would be the chair, and then you pack 3 blocks. That would be the table, and you write. It's part of the reason my handwriting is bazaar. So, you know, and you're asked to, because the uniform doesn't, it doesn't last sitting on blocks, right? So mostly my mother would go to the market and buy a pair of jeans and cut it, because the jeans will last longer than the tea-bread uniform, right?
So it was
quite a story, but then that's how I stayed. I ended up staying in school, and, you know, JSS, secondary school, Legon, US, come back, and today that's why. So I had to show gratitude to Mrs. Rawlings, made that post while she was still alive. I had no idea that exactly maybe 11 months later she'd be gone. But I'm really, 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 really happy that at least I got to tell the story and she got to see it before she passed. Because sometimes you could be on a certain part believing that you're doing something good, and then some people would make you feel so bad, feel like you did nothing, you had no impact. But it was good for her to recognize and be recognized that one of the interventions that she did has brought at least something positive.
Like you.
Exactly.
So taking you back to that school and her impact, are there people from the school that you still are in touch with? I know day nursery was a long time ago. Do you remember anybody from the school?
Yeah, you see, what is that question? You see, because I think, I'm still in touch with some of the people I went to school with. at the time, surely. But, you know, the whole process, Godwin, from day nursery up onto primary school to JSS, it's like a sieving process. It's a sieving process.
Yeah.
So too many people are falling off and falling off and falling off and falling off. And by the time I got to JSS 3 and was going to secondary school, only 3 of us passed to go to secondary school. And when we went to secondary school, one was dismissed after first year for poor academic performance. Not his fault. The foundation isn't great. Second year, another one was gone. And then I was the only one from that village that ended up completing secondary school in Canton Secondary in Tumu. And I got aggregate 27 after JSS. And I was so proud because my father killed a guinea fowl for me. Because there were 20 students and only 3 passed. And I got 27. And the cutoff point was 30. Right, so I was literally on the verge, right? I went to secondary school. In the school, there were people with, I don't know, aggregate 10, 7, went to better JSS and stuff like that. I had the worst aggregate in my class, you know, and it was quite something. But then I remember one of the things that my former master told me at the time, because he came when we were being introduced, he came with everybody's, the whole class list, like, and he had everybody's aggregate was there. You could tell him. He looked at me, and I was very tiny. And he said, well, what you brought here really doesn't matter. What matters is what you leave here with. So it's your chance. Maybe you didn't have the same teacher, you didn't have the same classrooms, the same material. So, but here, you all have the same thing. So this is your chance to prove that the aggregate from JSS doesn't define you. And that's what we did, because by the time I finished secondary school, you know, I got aggregate 13 and I went straight to Legon. And there were people who came there with better aggregates and didn't end up going to Legon. So
I love it.
You know, that's it's just, you know, once you give access, the thing is, you can't guarantee that everybody that will sit on blocks or that will lie on their stomachs will end up getting somewhere. But there will be some that will end up getting somewhere. That is a better chance than denying everybody simply because you don't have chairs or you don't have chalk or you don't have classrooms or you don't have this. You just give them the access first. And that sieving process will give you something good at the end of the day. You know, it's like finding a diamond in the rough. That's how it works. But if you don't search in that rough, you're not going to find any diamond.
But I like that you shared that, because going through the comments, I realized quite a number of people also came to attest to the fact that, oh, I was also a beneficiary of the one in Accra, I was also a beneficiary of this. So it sort of like brought people together. But also your experience wasn't just, you know, one that everybody saw. Was it quite personal as well? Which of her characters, you know, looking at her from that time, even after school, and finding out, you know, who she was and all of those things, which of her characters stood out to you?
Yeah, you know, to be honest, you know, obviously, at the time I was young, I was just happy to ride in her car. So, But much later, I'm guessing that, you know, she's very motherly in nature, you know, and I guess that she could relate a bit more because finding out when some of her kids were, but her children were born around the same time that I was born. So I'm guessing that that had a lot to do with the way she behaved around the time that she was First Lady. So. You know, and to be honest, I think that Mrs. Rawlings, and you don't have to like her, but Mrs. Rawlings really was, I think, the peak definition of First Lady. She brought a lot of dignity to that office, a lot of fashion, a lot of purpose to that office. And if you remember, every other First Lady that has come after her wants an initiative to go with, to be remembered with. And she set the pace for that, you know. And so, you know, I think that she's made quite an impact, fond memories in the minds of many people. And I think that she's one woman that's made a great impact and would never be forgotten in our history. That first December Women's Movement, for me, I think without that, I would not have an education, and I'm very grateful for that.
Fentuo, thank you so much for sharing this story with us.
Always happy to share.
Elaborating on how impactful the former First Lady has been, not just for you,
Yeah.
but for the many people who benefited from her initiatives.
Yeah.
Are we celebrating while we're mourning here?
Yeah.
Which one
That's the thing. I think it can be both. We can mourn and celebrate. A big shout to anyone who attended 31st December Women. We should come together.
You have like an old boys or old girls association.
Yeah. So the 31st December Women's Movement Day Nursery graduates. You saw the comments, right?
I did.
Like there's a lot of them.
A lot of them.
So if you attended the 31st December Women's Movement Day Nursery, hit me up.
Fentuo is calling on you. All right, thank you, my brother. Thank you so much.